Ladies and gentlemen, Violent Games here. Just gonna be doing a video about the Xbox One X. I've been really skipping out on content lately, so I'm just gonna throw you a bone and also try to keep my channel alive. Barely. Anyhow, let's talk about the Xbox One X. Without going over the specs too much, I'm just gonna say this from like my standpoint is that the specs for this console are pretty freaking awesome for an in-home console. I say that mostly because my #1 nerd goal for modern console gaming is we abolish 30 frames per second in all of our action games. Gosh, I hate 30 frames per second. It is the worst part about the new console generation. None of these consoles can push past 1080p 30, and that's really disappointing to me. And no, I don't really care about 4K. I think we should master 1080p before we move on to a new resolution, but that's just me. But according to a lot of PC nerds, the Xbox One X is actually very capable of this. And I looked at the console itself. It's a beautiful little unit. It has a lot of cool features in it, a lot of cool bells and whistles, and I love it. I love everything about the composition of this console. I think it's awesome. Watch someone more creditable than me. Creditable. There's your red flag right there. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Watch someone more credible about the specs on the Xbox One X versus all the other consoles, and you'll get what I'm saying. So, will I be purchasing one? Maybe. And I have to bring up these counterpoints to the Xbox One X because as a console, it's flawless. I love the console. If we're going to ignore all other outside factors here, it would be a must-buy for me on the merit that it's literally just a more powerful console. But we should probably talk about some of the problems that the Xbox One X is being plagued with. First and foremost, it's going to be most likely held back by the original Xbox. They said that instead of moving forward with this console, they were going to make them kind of cross-compatible with each other. Everything that you could play on the Xbox One X could be played on the original Xbox One. That's not good because the Xbox One's kind of a piece of garbage. It's not that great spec-wise. It's behind the PlayStation 4's base unit. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence that you're going to have all of these games come out that are going to be compatible for both of these consoles but still push the other one when the other one's like 6 times more powerful than the base unit. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And yeah, that's a major concern, that the Xbox One's just going to be a boon on the Xbox One X. Second piece of concern, in my mind, is that it's not up to Microsoft to make game developers make games for this console. And to be honest, the reason that this is such a concern is like, oh, what are you saying? Game developers won't just crank up their game to 60? And I'm like, yeah, because think of how many people are going to own an Xbox One X. The price point is not really enterable for most people. A lot of the other consoles are $100 to like $200 to $300 cheaper. It's going to be a lot less people looking at the Xbox One X as an option, especially for lower income families. You're not going to see a lot of these units shift, in my opinion, unless Microsoft markets it the right way, which they're fucking not, because they called it the Xbox One X. No one does that and says that's a good idea, Microsoft. Nobody but you, apparently. You know what else you thought was a good idea? The Kinect. Didn't work, did it? Anyways, stop beating dead horses. Imagine being a game developer and you are coding your game and you're like, it's going to run at 30 frames per second on the PlayStation 4, which means it's probably going to run 30 frames per second on the Xbox. Oh, there's this niche market that could run it really well, but why would we waste money in our game to sell to such a small demographic? You see what I mean? It's a business here. And the unfortunate side effect of that is that they have to make money-based decisions. And when you're thinking of coding a game for multiple consoles, are you really going to go out of your way to add the additional bells and whistles to a group of people who only have like a few of these consoles in their home? Like, it's a very small market share versus the rest of everyone else who already has the bigger PlayStation installer base and the already smaller Xbox installer base. It's like you're making a better game for like a much smaller audience. Are you really going to shift more copies by adding this feature into your game? You get what I'm saying, right? It's like these developers don't have a lot of incentive to develop for the Xbox One X as it is. How are they going to guarantee that developers do this? There really is no guarantee, except for certain developers maybe wanting to push their game a little bit further and not getting that result. I think that there's a chance you could be getting the best Bethesda games on the market with the Xbox One X. Let's just put it there. That's a developer I think would push their game a bit further on better tech. Last concern I have with the Xbox One X is lack of meaningful exclusives for the console. Because why do you play a video game console in the first place? It's to play killer apps. And in my opinion, Sony has absolutely dominated Microsoft in terms of obtaining and securing killer apps and continuing to make even more killer apps. Like, they don't sequel bait all the time. Yes, they have the Uncharted series, which is starting to be milked like Madden and Assassin's Creed, which I'll be honest, I'm not okay with it. I don't know why everyone else is. But Sony has offered me more unique experiences that are just jaw-dropping, that can sell a console, than Xbox has, ever. Like, Gears and Halo are fine, but I was tired of Gears and Halo after their respective sequels. I was kind of done with it. Similar to the way I feel about Uncharted, by the way. Know that it goes both ways with me when it comes to this type of repetitive sequelitis bullshit. But when it comes to like meaningful games I play that I'm like, wow, that was a unique experience. I think of Heavy Rain, I think of Horizon Zero Dawn, I think of Until Dawn, I think of Bloodborne. Like, all of these killer experiences can only be found on PlayStation. And that's the thing about PlayStation. They know that they have killer apps that you can experience nowhere else. Whereas the Xbox One didn't really support its base console to the point where it started putting its exclusives on the PC, further de-incentivizing the purchase of the original Xbox One. It's like they don't have any faith in that console at all. They even canceled killer apps that were going to be for that game, like Scalebound. I just don't trust Microsoft to give me the experience that Sony has given me. And I don't know. That's been my experience, really. It's completely subjective. I understand that. There are a few Xbox games I do want to check out. I heard Crackdown 3 was really cool. And I heard that Cuphead's kind of a cool indie. And then there's the We Happy Few. I think that's going to be a Microsoft exclusive as well. So I want to check those out. But is it anything that's going to... Like, for example, Sony just got Hideo Kojima. I want to play that game. I don't know when it's going to come out, but it has Norman Reedus in it. It's going to be like PT. I'm in. I don't care what they call it. I need to play it. I love horror. So yes, definitely better games on the PlayStation front, in my honest opinion. Even at the E3 press conference, I think we saw that Sony had more games anyways, that pushed their hardware. Whereas Microsoft, they had a bunch of weird indies. Like, 2D side scroller, the 4K edition. Like, who the fuck cares? I'm sorry, that's boring. That's really... What? A 2D side scroller with 4K. Wow, how impressive. But yeah, enough dogging on that. So let me give you my conclusion on the Xbox One X now that I kind of dogged its games lineup. I actually might get one. Now, not in the sense of I'm going to replace my PlayStation 4 with one. What I was thinking is I might get one as a companion console for my PlayStation 4. Because the worst thing that it can do, in my opinion, if they deliver on their promises, the worst thing that can happen to the Xbox One X is that Microsoft doesn't make a lot of meaningful exclusives, but third-party developers actually have better ports on their games on the console. This means, like, if I play a new Dishonored game, let's just... a Dishonored 3, like, if that ever existed. So let's say Dishonored 3 came out for the Xbox One X and it ran at 60 over the counterpart of the PlayStation, or the new Red Dead came out on the Xbox One X running at 60 over the PlayStation and PlayStation Pro variants. Then that for me is enough incentive to own the console. Maybe not even purchase online for it, but that would be incentive for me to own the console so that I get the best experience when it comes to some of these games. As again, kind of one of my hidden goals is I want modern consoles to get away from 30 frames per second in all of our action games, because it's just inferior. It feels worse. The game feels like it runs like shit. And when you get 60 frames per second, that's the area where everything feels really good. Don't ask me why. It just helps me do reactions. It makes the game feel like butter. It feels like when I press a button, an action immediately happens. There's no delay. There's no stuttering in combat or anything. It feels fine. So that's my conclusion, is if I get an Xbox One X, it'll be off the premise that Microsoft delivers on their promise, and it'll be off the premise that it'll be a companion to my PlayStation 4. I'll play all the killer apps on my PlayStation, but when it comes to third-party games, I'll use the Xbox One X because the Xbox One X has the potential to do more. And if it happens to not do more, then I won't get one. It's just plain and simple. It really depends on how the developers treat the console. If they treat it as a legitimate port and they make games properly for it, the Xbox One X will be an awesome experience for a gamer like me who wants the in-between between PC and console. This is exactly what I wanted, but is it what everyone else wants? Because I hear a lot of people tell me to this day, I don't care about frame rate. I'm like, good, stick with Sony. That's what I tell them every time. Stay with a Sony console. If you like kiddie games, go to the Nintendo console. But as a whole, and I'm not saying that to derail anyone, I like Zelda too. But yeah, I don't see this console selling that much, in all honesty. And that's a shame to me, but I hope it's successful, guys. I hope enough people pick up the Xbox One X to where it moves some sales figures. Because if it does succeed, that means Sony's going to have to fire back with the PlayStation 5 at some point. And we're going to get better stuff for us consumers. So this is Violent Games signing off. I hope you enjoyed this little ramble. And yeah, have a good one. And also, by the way, if you're thinking about buying one on launch, an Xbox One X, don't. Wait. Sit down and wait. There's no reason to rush out and get one right now, Jimmy. Just wait and see if they deliver on their promises. But if you have a base Xbox One and you wanted to upgrade and you only play on Microsoft for some reason because I don't know, a fanboy or something, then yes, go ahead. There's no harm in that. I hate the Xbox One base variant. I think it's a garbage console.